A mind is like a parachute. It doesn't work if it is not open. Music is the only religion that delivers the goods. The illusion of freedom will continue as long as it's profitable to continue the illusion. At the point where the illusion becomes too expensive to maintain, it will just take down the scenery. It will pull back the curtains. It will move the tables and chairs out of the way, and you will see the brick wall at the back of the theater. The universe consists of 5% protons, 5% neutrons, 5% electrons, and 85% morons. Americans like to talk about, or be told about, democracy, but, when put to the test, usually find it to be an inconvenience. We have opted instead for an authoritarian system disguised as a democracy. We pay through the nose for an enormous joke of a government, let it push us around, and then wonder how all those assholes got in there. There are only two things to remember. Number one, don't stop, and number two, keep going. Without deviation from the norm, progress is not possible. The most important thing to do in your life is to not interfere with somebody else's life. I'm vile and perverted. I'm obsessed and deranged. I've existed for years, but very little has changed. I'm the tool of the government and industry too. For I'm destined to rule and regulate you. You may think I'm pernicious, but you can't look away. I'll make you think I'm delicious with the stuff that I say. I'm the best you can get. Have you guessed me yet? I'm the slime oozing out of your TV set. Power will be maintained by the groovy guy or gal who gets the most media coverage for his sleaze. Naturally, his friends in various businesses will do okay, too. Information is not knowledge. Knowledge is not wisdom. Wisdom is not truth. Truth is not beauty. Beauty is not love. Love is not music. Music is the best. It gets harder the more you know. Because the more you find out, the uglier everything seems. Modern Americans behave as if intelligence were some sort of hideous deformity. Stupidity has a certain charm ignorance does not. Politics is the entertainment branch of industry. Don't go to bed with any woman crazier than you are. Schools train people to be ignorant, with style. They give you the equipment that you need to be a functional ignoramus. American schools asterisk do not equip you to deal with things like logic. They don't give you the criteria by which to judge between good and bad in any medium or format, and they prepare you to be a usable victim for military-industrial complex that needs manpower. You can bet everything will come to an end. It's going to be ugly, and it's going to be a mess, and it's going to be something that somebody did in the name of God. There's a big difference between kneeling down and bending over. It has never mattered to me that 30 million people might think I'm wrong. The number of people who thought Hitler was right did not make him right. Why do you necessarily have to be wrong just because a few million people think you are? There is more stupidity than hydrogen in the universe, and it has a longer shelf life. Censoring what you say is one of the ways in which people who are not nice can take away your personal freedom. Without music to decorate it, time is just a bunch of boring production deadlines or dates by which bills must be paid. If you want to get laid, go to college. If you want an education, go to the library. One of my favorite philosophical tenets is that people will agree with you only if they already agree with you. You do not change people's minds. The only difference between a cult and a religion is the amount of real estate they own. I would say that today, dishonesty is the rule, and honesty the exception. It could be, statistically, that more people are honest than dishonest, but the few that really control things are not honest, and that tips the balance. It's better to have something to remember than anything to regret. The last election just laid the foundation of the next 500 years of dark ages. I'm not black, but there's a whole lot of times I wish I could say I'm not white. As long as you're just smart enough to do a job and just dumb enough to swallow what they feed you, you're gonna be alright. But if you go beyond that, then you're gonna have these grave doubts that give you stomach problems. Headaches make you want to go out and do something else. So, I believe that schools mechanically and very specifically try and breed out any hint of creative thought in the kids that are coming out. We pretend to be a free society, and we pretend to be an adult society, but if you look at the facts, our news is just as contrived and controlled as Pravda. I believe that people have a right to decide their own destinies. People own themselves. I also believe that, in a democracy, government exists because, and only so long as, individual citizens give it a temporary license to exist, in exchange for a promise that it will behave itself. In a democracy, you own the government. It doesn't own you. The whole foundation of Christianity is based on the idea that intellectualism is the work of the devil. Remember the apple on the tree? Okay, it was the tree of knowledge. You eat this apple, you're going to be as smart as God. We can't have that. Without deviance from normality, there can be no progress. I enjoy irritating the people who enjoy being irritated. Republicans stand for raw, unbridled evil and greed and ignorance smothered in balloons and ribbons. To me, absurdity is the only reality. Anybody who wants religion is welcome to it. As far as I'm concerned, I support your right to enjoy it. However, I would appreciate it if you exhibited more respect for the rights of those people who do not wish to share your dogma, rapture, or necrodestination. Anything played wrong twice in a row is the beginning of an arrangement. Republican is fine if you're a millionaire. Democrats is fair if all you own is what you wear. Neither of them's really right, cause neither of them care. Environmental laws were not passed to protect our air and water, they were passed to get votes. The United States is a nation of laws, badly written and randomly enforced. It isn't necessary to imagine the world ending in fire or ice. There are two other possibilities. One is paperwork, and the other is nostalgia. Eventually, within the next quarter of a century, the nostalgia cycles will be so close together that people will not be able to take a step without being nostalgic for the one they just took. At that point, everything stops. Death by nostalgia. Interviewer: so Frank, you have long hair. Does that make you a woman? Frank Zappa: you have a wooden leg. Does that make you a table? You know, people are basically shitty. It's when they prove it over and over again that it gets obnoxious. My best advice to anyone who wants to raise a happy, mentally healthy child is, keep him or her as far away from a church as you can. I never set out to be weird. It was always other people who called me weird. As far as rearing children goes, the basic idea I try to keep in mind is that a child is a person. Just because they happen to be a little shorter than you doesn't mean they are dumber than you. Communism doesn't work because people like to own stuff. You can't be a real country unless you have a beer and an airline. It helps if you have some kind of a football team or some nuclear weapons, but at the very least you need a beer. A wise man once said, never discuss philosophy or politics in a disco environment. America was founded by the refuse of the religious fanatics of England, these undesirable elements that came over on the Mayflower. Ignorant, religious fanatics who land here and abuse the Indians.